Jai Baba. Baba ki Jai.
This is the 14th tape of Meherwan's recollections of life with Baba, our beloved Meher Baba. And this is October 24th. We're continuing directly from the previous tape, in which, Meherwan, you've been describing some of the events, dramatic events leading into the East-West gathering, one of those being the Chinese invasion, which had caused difficulties for the Australians in the time.
So
I think I was saying to Willie during the Ramadan that I think a lot of us, even of our generation, remember that time vividly.
Yeah.
Because it really was a moment where it seemed like there could be a world war.
Yeah, it was on the brink of a nuclear warfare. So Baba was mentioning that, see how Maya always tries to intervene during any phase of his important work. So this was a part of the general scheme of things, when something or the other must come to cause obstacles in Baba's work. And of course those obstacles had to be overcome, and then Baba's work would have more force, That was the game plan of Baba, as we could see it, of course. Yes, so the Cuban missile crisis was there. Russia was trying to get these atomic missiles into Cuba, and President Kennedy held out an ultimatum that if these boats proceed to Cuba, then the American Navy would go and intervene. And if that happened, it was nuclear warfare, quite obvious. So it was a touch and go affair, as Baba was telling us. Yeah. But at the nth hour, Khrushchev chickened out, as it were. And Baba said Russia was frightened. And so he retreated, and the boats went back to Russia with the missiles, and the world heaved a sigh of relief. But all this, I think, was very close to Baba's East-West gathering function. And then the Chinese invasion. That was just a couple of days prior to the function. Yeah.
So a crisis in the East and a crisis in the West.
Yeah, that's right. So that's right.
This gathering of crises.
It never occurred to me that. That's a new point. The East-West confrontations. Yeah. Yeah, so any case, Baba was there, and I, of course, was working with Meherji during my off hours in the office. And when Baba came over, that was the time I had planned to take leave. So I took about 2 or 3 weeks leave to help Meherji and other work to the fullest extent. And we were, of course, all busy visiting these different hotels and seeing that everything was right and ready. There was, of course, the reception committee, which was to welcome the Westerners. Yeah, so that was a different thing. I think Sarosh and all those people were in charge of that.
Welcome them in Bombay.
Bombay and Pune, yeah. So Baba got everything very well planned, Everybody had taken up their responsibilities, and all was very well set and going, despite all these emergencies and tensions and threat of the World War. Yeah, it could all have been obliterated, So then Baba came over, and I was visiting Guru Prasad daily, and the Baba had made a regimen that the workers should come to Guru Prasad to have their lunch there. And Baba had fixed the menu for us, A very simple menu. It was to be buns and tea. Nothing else, yeah. Sweet buns and tea.
Not even dal and rice.
Nothing. So we had to come and have our lunch wherever we were, just come there, eat and go off again to our different duties. And we enjoyed it, yeah. It was at Baba's place. So Baba was hosting the lunch,
Would you see Baba at those times?
Yes, we used to see. And Baba would be in the hall as usual, but looking very, very weak and all that. On the day of our arrival, he looked a little better, but then as the days progressed and the D-Day was approaching, Baba was more and more weak. So much so that on the day prior to even when they were at Guru Prasad, Baba's health began, it was so weak that Eraj said, Baba, even now, if you give the order, we will still cancel it if you tell us. Baba says, no. Now, it is to take place, yes, whatever happens. So,
by the way, who's in charge of the entertainment side of the program?
What entertainment?
For the music or the
Yeah. So for that, there was the Pune Center Bhajan group, and then there was one Mr. Golwilkar, who was the station director of All India Radio. A very talented musician. So he was also there to assist, and some artists would come, and mainly it was Madhusudan and Party and Pratap and all these people. So another stage was built. You see, the main stage was built on the backside of Guru Prasad, a huge big stage, and then there was this big pandal seating about, I don't know, 5,000 or odd. You can see in the pictures outside.
So that's the backside.
Yeah, the backside.
The road, but then go to the other side of the building.
You see, the main road was in front, and then there was this driveway, and it branched out around the bungalow on both sides, and would go back to the rear side of the bungalow. And on the rear side there was a huge compound, open space, and on either side of it were servants' quarters and outhouses and all that. But in the middle there was a huge open space, but it was all full of weeds and brushes and undergrowth, and very uneven because it had been unused for years and years. So the whole thing required to be totally dug up, leveled and steamrolled, to make it completely level. And then after doing that, these poles were erected, and finally the cloth decorations and the roofing was done. And all was supervised by Bapu Sahib. And of course, city engineer Mr. Barjor Bodh, he was of great help for water and other facilities. Yes. So everybody helped. And then the thing cropped up, while leveling and scrub and digging up the place, there were a lot of ants in that place, because being unused and all that, there was huge nests of ants,
The biting kind?
Yeah, of the biting kind, the red ants.
Fire ants.
So that night when they started, the final rolling was being done, suddenly and it was over, the ants started to come out, and the chairs had to be now put in place. So before the chairs could be put in place, the contractors came rushing to Eraj in the dead of the night.
When was this, the day before?
31st, I think. and said, this is what has happened. Should we utilize some spraying powder to kill the ants? Now, Erich was mindful of Baba's orders regards ants, that one should not willfully destroy ants. So now millions of these ants were all over the place. So it had to be a mass extermination, So Erich was in a quandary what to do now. So Baba had retired, it was dead of night. Baba was so tired. So anyway, he just said that he had to ask Baba's permission. So he went and knocked, and then of course the Bhava, some watchman was there, and Baba asked him to come in, and he told this to Baba. Baba sat up on his bed, and then he was in... Erich says this, that Baba considered this for some time, as it were, and then said, give the order to exterminate the ants, because my lovers are greater than the lives of the ants. Yeah. Usually ants Baba doesn't like, because Baba has mentioned somewhere that if human beings kill ants, they have to come back into the same species to complete their sanskaras. There is no progress for them. Their progress is retarded. So it's not a good thing to do. Unlike snakes, Baba says that if a human being kills a snake, that's the only way it can progress out of that sort of species. So it's two reverse things in his own creation. Yes, so he gave the order, and of course the extermination was done overnight, in the middle of the night, and after that the chairs were started to be placed in position, and by morning time it was a grand spectacle, with all these rows upon rows of empty chairs, well placed, and the shamyana looking bright and colorful with different colored cloths, and a bright, brilliant sky overhead, blue sky, mind you, and everything looking very conducive. And the greatest piece of good news was that suddenly Baba's health changed. And just before the gathering was to commence, there was a total transformation in Baba's whole demeanor, his whole appearance. It was an amazing transformation, one might say. We have seen several of these time and again, but this was a particularly striking one, because Baba, the day before that, looked so completely pulled down, haggard, no color on his face. He looked really weak, had to be supported on both sides from one room to the other, barely able to walk. And really we thought that how could his body bear this terrible strain? And the programs were, mind you, morning and afternoon sessions. So on the morning, the sun, as it were, rose, and
this was the morning of
of the Easter, 1st November, and Baba was the real sun. He looked really radiant, I tell you, so, glowing and so beautiful that we all were really taken aback at this change. The color and his cheeks came back. He looked rosy and pink. What happened? We couldn't make out what was happening.
So this was apparent before the crowds came on that day.
And Baba was there. And then, of course, the morning session began with the Westerners coming in the morning and having Baba's darshan. this morning session was in the main hall of Guru Prasad, not in the backside pandal. Yes, the morning hall, time, the hall had been arranged in such a way that on the sides, all the sides were placed sofas and chairs for people, for aged people. By the way, I must say that Ruth White had attended. It was her, I think, first and last trip to India. I don't know whether she had come earlier or not, but she was in her 90s, mind you, and very, very old. And
92.
92?
I was just reading Francis Brabazon's East-West Gathering this morning.
Because I remember they brought a lift chair and she was brought into the hall in the lift chair. And Kitty was all the while with Ruth White. She was attending to Ruth. Yeah. So the oldest was Ruth White, and then the youngest member was from Australia, a girl named Radha. So she was a tiny little 6-year-old tot. And of course Charles and Wendy and others were there, but they were little older, but this was a tiny thing. Yeah. Jenny, Ruthie, they all had come, these children. Yeah. So,
remember all these kids from then.
Yeah. They were small. Yeah. So the Westerners gathering, no Easterners were allowed to be in the hall. Even we were not inside. Only Baba and Erich, and I think Francis. And the women from the others, we could see from the slats, from the side Manli hall, but not to disturb anybody. And the women from the other side observed from there. And Baba was with them, and of course we hear accounts that it was a gorgeous love feast. Baba was just an ocean of love, radiance and beauty on the sofa, and they were just taken aback by his beautiful form. And there were many tearful faces and lots of weeping, and as usual, when he embraced each one in turn. So many just broke down there. So many had seen him just for the first time. And yes, it was an indescribable scene.
How would this be for you? You had been with him on so many occasions. Was it different to be with Baba during these darshans?
Yes, as I said, when he was privately with us, it would be different.
But this mood of overflowing.
None of that. That goody stuff was not for the Manli people. Erich would even complain many times. Baba, is this in our fate to see you like this all our lives? And they enjoy and see you for a time and just go away with all that satisfaction. So Baba said, that is in their fate, this is in your fate. What can I do? Yeah, but still, despite that, although this was the fate of the Manli, they enjoyed it because it was proximity of the Lord. Come thick or thin, black or white, they were with Baba. Yeah. So it was Baba in his really expansive mood and giving away everything, as it were. And what a love feast it was, really. So there were these 4 days of morning sessions, and each day it would go on like this. There would be, he had said no private interviews, but sometimes he would call them in little groups and talk to them or whatever, because we were not allowed much to follow the proceedings, but we could gather from here and there little tidbits of what was going on. So I don't think it was filmed also, this session of the morning. Has it been filmed?
There is at least some.
I haven't seen any film of it.
There is some.
Is it
some
in the hall? In the hall?
Hall, yeah, with the Westerners only, smaller group. Yeah, I forget which film, but there's at least some footage.
Might be there. Yeah.
I think listening to some music one time, as a matter of fact.
Yes. So I'll tell you about that. So I think on 2 occasions there were music. When he brought a kawal, when he arranged for a kawal, for kawali music, and then on the last day, I think, Vinayak Rao Patwardhan.
What's that?
Vinayak Rao Patwardhan. He was a great classical singer of the pure Hindi classical music. He was one of the learned pandits of music, Pandit is the highest qualification. And he had sort of invented his own different type of music called the tarana, in which at one point of the singing, he would just start to imitate an instrument and bring out these notes. So one would feel that he had some instrument in his throat, and it was very beautiful. I wish somebody had taped that. Yeah. So in fact, then he went to Russia and gave a command performance before Khrushchev. And Khrushchev said he was so amazed by his singing. He had never heard any such thing before. And he says, I would like to see if there's anything in your throat. He was a flamboyant type of leader,
Yeah.
So he just opened his mouth and wanted to see. He was so impressed by his music. So, but singing before Baba, these artists somehow got so inspired that their singing was so good that they excelled themselves. So we would notice that these artists would be able to put out the very best. Baba would bring it out from them in order to give them the opportunity to render that service before the Lord. Because it's a service that comes once in many lifetimes, So he gives them the chance to render that service, And he enjoys the music, and they enjoy singing before him. And of course, we all enjoy this great drama that takes place between the artist and the listener. Baba would mention that all this music is just a 7th shadow of the original sound, the Adi Nad. That if you were to hear just a tiny vibration of that original sound, you'd be blasted. But I hear that all the while, but despite that, I also enjoy this music on your level. Yeah. So what a state it must be. Anyway, so this Vinayak Rao Patwardhan, Baba liked only one raga of the classical music, and that was the Bhairavi. Now Bhairavi is a very sad sort of tune. It has great pathos in it, Is that the word, pathos? Yeah. So when it's sung, it brings out great feeling of the lover's pain and sorrow, and all these emotions are there in this song, in this raga. They call it the Bhairavi, and it is the the rag that they play always at the end of the program. Then the last piece would be this. Yeah. And Baba asked him to sing that. And he sang that song, Jogi Mataja, Mataja, Mataja.
What does that mean?
Oh Master, don't go away. Don't leave me, and all that. It was a very nice thing, yeah. And the Westerners were just enthralled by this music. Yeah. They never heard any such thing before. It was a superlative performance. Yeah. And everybody was spellbound. And Baba, of course, was there to add to the beauty of the occasion. Yes, so that was one program, and another one was, I think, a Qawwali. I'm not so sure about it, but I think there was another singing program. And then I remember there was another little skit that the Westerners performed in a lighter vein. I think it was the last day again, or probably on the fifth day when Baba called them, I think. I'm not so sure, it's all very hazy now. But I remember they asked Baba permission to perform a small skit, and Baba said yes. And there was this Sufi. Was there anybody named Al-Faqi? Al-Faqi?
Might have been, I don't know.
I can't remember the names, but I think he played the part of a doctor. And the Baba lovers are calling him to examine Baba. Why is it not speaking? Some such thing. I don't remember the play or something. So he comes and puts the stethoscope, and Baba is part of the play, you know. So he comes up to Baba and examines, and then says, I want to examine your throat. Open your mouth. I want to see your tongue. So Baba says, no. Not that. He shook his head. Not that. I remember that, that gesture. Yeah, so it was a nice comic little skit, about 5 or 10 minutes. And then they all laughed, and it was nice, lighter vein. I think it was while they were departing. And Bendy and Charles also were in it or something. It's all very hazy now. How many years it's now?
What is it, 32? 32 years.
32 years.
Actually, we'll be on the anniversary of it next Monday.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, no, the next Tuesday.
Yeah.
1st of November.
But these scenes have been so indelibly impressed on the mind that after lapse of all these years, I can still visualize some of these scenes as if they are happening now. Yeah.
You know, it's funny, although I was never there, I'm sure I'm not the only one where it's almost like I have vivid impressions of it also, just from hearing people describe it.
You might be in your... What age were you then?
I was 10.
10. And he might be probably participating.
Right.
Are you Ruth White? That is Willie David I'm talking to. in this birth.
Right.
Come on, Willie, recollect what were you then?
That was Ruth White's dog.
Yeah, so so these were the morning programs, very intense, very personal, almost private because the group was small. But the afternoon session was the real East-West gathering. So the Easterners would be at the gates early noon time, wanting to rush in as soon as the gates open and try to occupy the vantage seats in front, because they would like to be as near the dais as possible. Of course, the first, I think, 6 or 7 rows on either side were reserved for the Westerners, according to Baba's instructions. And after that, anybody could sit anywhere they want. But the Pune lovers were ordered by Baba to start occupying the rear seats and come up. So the rearmost seats, and they could see Baba as a tiny little dot, mind you.
So would you sit back there also?
No, I was given the duty. I wasn't part of the audience, because we were volunteers, not supposed to enjoy all this, So my duty was on the telephone. There was just one solitary telephone in Guru Prasad. So, yeah. And it was in the Rani's room. So the Guru Prasad bungalow had these rooms, and then there were these bath and toilet rooms at the rear, on either side of the main hall. And so, and there was an opening in between the two wings. So there was where the stage was constructed, in between that space. And then the pandal beyond that. So I could be on the phone, and then I could open the side windows of one of the toilet rooms, and Baba would be visible very close.
Yeah. Well, you had a good view then.
Yeah.
One of the prime seats.
Yeah. And the women from that side could see from their side of the bathrooms and all.
Oh, I see.
With curtains and all that. Yeah. So the back side or the side view was for us.
Was anyone else in the room with you, or were you there alone?
Yeah, there would be many people coming in to make phones, ask me to connect so-and-so, telephones coming in, this and this inquiry and that inquiry, and somebody is ill, send these people there. So, the phone would be buzzing all the while, Especially for the up till the morning session, then there would be less calls, taper off, So this was the arrangement, and so the afternoon session started, the first day, mind you, and the whole pandal was full of people, and there was not a vacant seat that one could see. There was this big, there was a small dais halfway down the pandal to the right side, where the Pune Center Bhajan group were seated. And there were mics all over. So everybody could hear on either dais,
And the sound system was good.
It was good.
Could hear well.
This was all managed by Bapu Sahib. At his own expense, mind you. So the bhajan group would be singing there, providing the background for the whole occasion. And Baba's sofa chair was in the middle of the stage, and there were steps. So it was a chance for the Easterners to come and have Baba's embrace one by one. It was not a public function, so only those who were participating in the East-West as Baba lovers, they were allowed to be there. And so the thing started, and darshan started. It was 1st of November, supposed to be a cool month, but the heat was stifling. So if you'll see in some of the films that people are fanning themselves vigorously, because it was so hot, and it was all in this big pandal, so it was all very humid with all the breaths of so many thousand, and they were all very, very uneasy about it. And suddenly from nowhere, clouds began to gather. There was great sound of thunder and lightning, and Baba's Maya starting to assert itself again, And before one could realize what was happening, it began to pour. Never before in November. We had such showers in Pune, and nobody had foreseen rains in this month. That is why this month was selected, So no provision was made on the roofing to have any waterproof. So it was just like a sieve, and it began to pour. So everybody was thoroughly and totally drenched. But the beauty of it was that nobody moved from their seats. They just kept seeing Baba. But some of them put the chairs on their head because it was the covers would sag, the roof, and the people under that sag would be having a big deluge. So they were the people who held chairs above them, but they wouldn't leave their places. It was a sight really, a real baptism by rain, which we could call it. So see, Baba, in all Baba's big functions, rain has played a part, as we have seen. I think I told you in Satara also, and at Meherabad and all these places. Yeah.
So, first day of the new life.
First day of the new life, that's right. The first day of the march here.
Yeah, that's right.
And the Pune people came. Yeah. So, as I said, this deluge went on and on and on, and everything got flooded, mind you. We thought, Baba, what is going to happen now? This is going to be a big farce or what? But no, the darshan just went on as if nothing. The rains just came and went by, and people were oblivious of this, as it were. And the darshan queue just went on as usual. There was no stampede, but a little stampede did occur in the beginning. So the queue system seemed to go haywire because of people from the sides couldn't see what was happening in the front, and so some sort of confusion started to take place. And it became so difficult for the volunteers that at one stage I left the phone and rushed out to help the volunteers to try and restore the order, but leaving the phone unattended. So then I was reprimanded for that.
Oh.
You had no business to come out. So, but that happened,
When did Baba reprimand you? Later in the day?
Later, I had given you the order to be near the phone. Why did you do that? I said, Baba, I'm sorry, but I couldn't see the stampede and I tried to help. All right, forgiven. So this first day, now Baba made a signal to some of the women, the older women, Westerners, to go to the women's side from the bathroom. So they were taken in, some of them, like Elizabeth and other old people, and the Meera and Mani and other women, they gave their dresses to them. So they came out with these loose-fitting garments, and they were a spectacle to watch. So I think a thorough blending of the East and West took place. And then Baba clapped that they should come out quickly and be in front of him, not to miss him. So they all rushed out. They were talking with Meera and the women inside. So it, as a seeming tragedy we thought would occur, but nothing. And mind you, my uncle was there, Nerji Mama. He was our oldest member of our family. He was in his 80s at that time, suffering from asthma and all this. So he also was totally drenched. And then there was this Maisai Patwardhan, a very old lady, very frail. She also had asthma. They sat through the whole thing and they never had any problems. Yeah, when we heard from them.
I would have expected the next 3 days of the East-West gathering to be nothing but 5,000 colds sitting there.
Nothing. They dried up very fast also. I don't know what happened.
How long did this rain continue?
About 15-20 minutes or probably a little more. But it was a strong, heavy shower, yeah. Probably localized.
Yeah.
I don't know how widespread it was, but all we were concerned was the function there. But it was not disrupted, whatever happened. So that was the first day, and in the close of the program would be his aarti that would be performed in front of the stage. Women would be there with these big trays with lighted camphor, and I think you'd be seeing in the film they are waving these trays before Baba. That's the aarti being sung at the end of the thing.
End of each day's program.
Yeah, end of each day's program. And then, but the Australian, part of the Australian group had missed this first day's program. They arrived on the second in the afternoon. They missed the second morning program also.
So they missed 2 morning sessions.
Yeah, they missed the one. But I
nothing.
think on the second, I think they were called to Guru Prasad in the evening as a special case, and Baba met them to compensate for this. And it was a very personal thing. And we gathered from Bill and Judith and all these people.
Bill was among them?
Bill and 2 or 3 others came by air direct from Australia to be well in time to arrange for their group's arrangements here. And Bill stayed over in Bombay to await the group from Colombo. And the other 3 people came ahead in a flight on the train to Pune. But Bill remained behind, and then he heard that there are no more planes. So then Baba sent a message to him that he should come back. So he attended the program of the first, and then he rushed back to Bombay. And for 3 or 4 nights he was keeping awake. And he tells us that he was surprised that how he was able to carry on without the slightest wink, mind you, for 3 or 4 nights continuously.
Wow.
And with this long journey from Australia, one gets fagged out just by and that time the planes were quite slow, mind you. So it was a tiring journey, and then back and forth and all the arrangements, and at the end of it all, he suddenly realized that Baba must have given him all this energy, and that made him think how Baba could make the Mandli have all the energy to undergo these rigorous trials on the must tours. He had some inkling of it. So that was the first day. And then on the second day, again in the afternoon, there was another little shower. Perhaps I think for the group who missed the first day.
Yes, I see. A little group.
I don't know what, but I remember there was another shower on the second and another little drenching. but not as severe as the first day, and not that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I never heard of that before.
Yeah, I remember that the second day also. And and Baba is making signs that there are clouds gathering now. Go home, go back. You'll see in one of the films. At the end of the program, the aarti is going on. After that, he makes a sign that the clouds are gathering. Go back. So the rains were being held up, as it were. There was a little shower and then it had stopped, but it was very cloudy and all that. But then on the 3rd and 4th day, it was clear. And on the fourth day was the day of public darshan. So, but before that, there was a little very heart-warming incident that occurred. There was a village some distance away towards Bombay. So the whole village had come to take Baba's darshan for this East-West gathering. And they had just left the whole village like that, without attendance, mind you. The children, women, men, all had come, leaving the animals and everything there, unattended, as it were in Baba's hands. And they had come there for the darshan. But they couldn't get darshan. So for 2 days they tried to get into the queue, but time was up. So on the third day they had to leave, because otherwise there would be chaos back home. And somehow Baba came to know about this, and Baba sent somebody post haste to call them back, So I remember Baba gave them a special darshan in the morning of the third day to those eastern villagers, while the westerners were still not there, Baba was giving this darshan. And in the meantime they arrived, so they were part of the program there. But these people were extremely happy to be remembered by Baba like this, Otherwise they would have left without his darshan, despite doing all the sacrifice. But somehow Baba knows about this, and he contrives it in a very natural way. And so they were all very satisfied and left after Baba's embrace.
He seems to like to contrive it where it goes to the last hour, the 11th hour, so all the tension is there.
They were resigned to his will, and that is what he wants, He draws that out from us with all these natural happenings, brings it to that point, and then rewards us, as it were. So I think that was then the fourth day this public darshan started. So Baba's chair was brought to the edge of the dais, because Baba was not to embrace, because it would have been impossible. The public darshan means it was a big occasion for the Punaites, and there were miles of queues all along the driveway, and then for a mile, right almost up to the railway station, these queues were extending, mind you. So it was a frightening scene as to when this is going to all end up, and it began in the afternoon, mind you. So to expedite this, Baba's chair was brought there, and they would have to bow down at Baba's feet and pass away. And every time Baba was doing these signs, as if he was blessing them also, and as if he was accepting their love or what. But this gesture we see all the while in the films.
I think there are a lot of films of that particular day, now that you describe it. People filing and bowing down
on his feet. So before the public darshan started, I think, or probably stopping the queue once, the mandli were asked to come and bow down to Baba. And that time you'll see all the mandli bowing down to Baba. After many years, they had this privilege to bow down at his feet. And the Westerners and all the Easterners also could see them do this. So it was a great sight. And then the public darshan started, and the queue just went endlessly on until it was time, but there was no break. It just was going on and on and on. Baba just stopped it. And then there was the aarti, and then Baba said, "That's it, it's all over." Everybody heaved a sigh of relief. So I don't know if I missed anything there. Quite a lot of things happened in those 4 days.
It sounds from the way people describe it, it's like each day was an ocean all by itself.
Yeah.
So full of...
Baba was just giving of himself. He looked so radiant and so beautiful, and all the color and everything, yeah. So it was a relief for the Manli also to see him like that, for once. And of course, at the end of each day was a nightmare for the people around him. Yeah, his whole body was tortured with pain, and the suffering that he underwent, nobody knows about that.
Do you know if he slept at night during the East-West gathering? Did he get any sleep during those nights?
I wouldn't know that, because probably you should ask Bhav about that. Yeah. He was doing most of the night watch. Some of the other Mandli also, Pendu was there. Pendu was doing part of the night watch, despite his ill health and all that. Yeah. He had this bad accident, Yeah. But still he was doing night watch till quite a long time.
And the nightmare of Baba's being exhausted or pain each evening, and then he would somehow revive.
Yeah, the mornings were a different story. That was for the public viewing.
Yeah.
This was for the monthly viewing. So the East-West gathering. Yes. So on the last day, the public function, the reporters had come, the press. So I think it was the Times reporter who asked a question to Baba, raising his hand. And on that last day, I was amongst the crowd of Westerners taking down their departure particulars, because Meherji wanted those schedules. And so directly from them I was getting all the names and tickets and this and that, going from person to person. And this man stands up, hey, and he says, Baba, I want to ask you a question. And this Chinese invasion has taken place, and what would be the outcome of this? So Baba sends the word that asks Sairaj to interpret that since India is the birthplace of the avatar of me, so eventually India will be victorious. Yeah. And there was a great cry from the crowd, hailing Baba, Baba's joy and all that. Yeah.
And it proved to be the case.
So, yes, it's coming to that place now. All the relations are getting normalized, and slowly China is coming around. Still the occupation is still there. Gradually it's getting better now, the situation. Yes, so these two big crises were there. And yes, there was this Mona and Manohar Sakre. So Sakre was the wing commander of the air battalion, and since this emergency had arisen, there was no question of his getting leave, So somehow, I don't know, there's a very interesting account by himself as to how he managed to get leave, how he came over, and when he was attending the East-West gathering on the very first day, the marshals had come to call him back. He was almost under arrest, as it were. And he was to be court-martialed, for leaving the battlefront and shirking his duty, So somehow he was able to managed to evade those marshals. It's a very interesting account that he has given. In one of the Divyavanis, it is there. A very interesting account. And then also how Baba had said that the Chinese will turn back. And that was the message he was asked to deliver to his superiors. So when he went there, he was summoned, and of course they didn't court-martial him, but somehow the top authorities condoned his absence. And then he had to rush back, I think, on the third day or something, leaving Baba like that, because it was too much for him. And when he went there, the top air marshal was there, and he says, "What happened, and what did your master say?" And he said the war cabinet was there, and there he was asked to say what Baba said. And he said that Baba said the Chinese will turn back. So they laughed. They says, militarily it's impossible for a victorious army to turn back. They will never do that. But just as Baba had said, on a particular day, the Chinese unilaterally ceased fire and turned back. They didn't enter the valley, the lower portions of the mountains. Yeah, and it was an unexplainable thing militarily. Yeah. So then this was known to all the politicians and the cabinet here. So that was the occasion of the East-West gathering. A very memorable function that took place.
Francis Brabazon's East-West gathering gives a magnificent presentation of it.
Yeah.
It really captures some of the fragrance that time.
Yeah.
Seems to have made an indelible impression on everyone who was there.
That's right. So then after this program was over, then of course the Westerners were sent off in several buses to Meherabad and Meherazad and Mehernagar to have a flavor of the place. So many of them had not seen the places before, and they were given this conducted tour. And one of the items I remember was drink the pure waters of Meherazad well. One of the attractions of the tour. It somehow has remained in my So in the tour program it was there. Yeah. So they all enjoyed the visit of coming here and seeing all this.
An augury of things to come.
Yeah. So they were to visit Baba's tomb. It was open then, the crypt was open.
Yeah.
Yes. And they all were instructed by Baba to bow down there on the threshold. Yeah. I think Sarosh was in charge of the transport and all that. And Jalbhai was there, Baba's brother. And Behram, Jangu were in charge of filming some of this event. Of course, Harry Kenmore was there, and he asked somebody to get a professional photographer, and he had brought stacks of films, and he got a lot of films for the occasion.
Isn't that something, a blind man?
Yeah.
Getting films done.
So he said, how many films have you all taken? And somebody said 1,000 feet. And he said, stinking 1,000 feet in his usual big booming voice. Stinking 1,000 feet. Couldn't you do better than that? He was the one who could feel that such an occasion would never arise again. So, yeah. But films were very expensive then. So, it wouldn't fit into the budgets of people,
Yeah.
So, Harry Canmore was there, and he was, I think, he had to inaugurate the afternoon session with the Parvardigar prayer, and he hardly needed the mic, such a booming voice he had. So Harry's love for Baba was really unique, because not only was he blind, but he was really very hard of hearing also. So it was a real it was a real job for Airaj whenever he came to satisfy Harry, because he couldn't see, and Baba would whenever Baba would sit, Baba would make him sit very close to him, on his right side. And Baba would keep patting him on his legs, and just to give him a sort of closeness, And sometimes Baba would joke with Harry. He says, "Oh, you have a very rough shave. See my shave." And then he would hold Harry's hand like this and make him feel his forehead. And Harry would laugh. "Ho, ho, ho. My pop is cheating," he says. You knew that he was...
You couldn't fool him on that.
Yeah. So it was a smooth forehead, See how smooth my shave is? And he liked that joke, He would call Baba Pop, my Pop. Yeah. And he paid several visits to India. The first was, of course, after the accident. I think I had mentioned that previously, when he came to treat Baba. He was a chiropractor, and he lessened Baba's pain to a considerable extent. And he was the one who detected the uneven length of his feet after the accident, and so a heeled chapel was made thereafter, which lessened Baba's pain considerably. Just a few centimeters